The wedding bells rang, but I knew this wasn't a celebration, it was my funeral. The love of my life wasn't mine. And the moment the rooftop doors opened, my fate would be sealed again. But not this time. The guests whispered among themselves, unaware of the storm about to unfold. My hands trembled slightly, but not from fear. This time, I wasn't the clueless bride standing at the altar, waiting for my world to collapse. I was prepared. My eyes scanned the grand hall, covered in expensive decor and filled with smiling faces. It was all an illusion, a picture-perfect moment that would soon shatter into pieces. Ethan stood beside me, holding my hand like a devoted groom. His grip was firm, but I could feel the slight tension in his posture. He was waiting, anticipating the moment she would arrive. Just like before. I turned slightly, catching the way his gaze flickered towards the entrance. My heart clenched, but not from love. It was rage. The priest spoke, but the words faded into the background. I already knew what came next. My life had played out in this exact sequence once before. The betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, it was all waiting to unfold. But unlike last time, I wouldn't stand frozen in shock. My breath remained steady, my mind clear. This time, I was in control. Then it happened. A loud gasp rippled through the crowd. My mother's horrified expression confirmed what I already knew. The guests turned, their attention no longer on me. The air grew thick with tension as murmurs spread like wildfire. I shifted my gaze towards the rooftop entrance. There she was. Lily. Her white dress stained deep red, messy hair clinging to her damp face. She trembled, looking fragile, helpless. The perfect picture of a wounded soul. But I knew better. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her lips quivering as she clutched her stomach. The same act, the same deception. She wanted everyone to believe she was the victim. That I had stolen her happiness, taken what was rightfully hers. Ethan moved before I could stop him, his hand slipping from mine as he turned towards her. His expression shifted, genuine concern, panic, guilt. He had never looked at me that way. My fingers curled into fists, nails digging into my palm. I took a slow breath, calming the fury bubbling beneath my skin. I couldn't let emotions take over. I had waited for this moment, planned for it. Stay where you are. My voice was firm, loud enough for everyone to hear. Ethan halted, startled by my tone. The crowd, still watching, fell into silence. Lily sobbed, reaching out towards him. Ethan. I can't do this anymore. I lost our baby. She took everything from me. Her voice cracked, perfectly timed for dramatic effect. Gasps echoed through the hall. The whispers grew louder, eyes darting between me and her. Just like before, judgment passed over me without hesitation. I was the villain in their story. The heartless woman who had forced a poor, innocent girl to the brink of despair. Ethan turned to me, anger flashing in his eyes. What did you do? His voice was sharp, demanding an answer I refused to give. I met his gaze, calm and unshaken. Call the police. The room fell into dead silence. Lily's tears paused for the briefest second before she continued sobbing. And no, please, don't. She shook her head frantically, her act slipping. I just wanted to talk. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the marble floor. A woman covered in blood, crashing a wedding, accusing the bride of murder, and you expect no one to involve the authorities. My voice was steady, unbothered. Ethan hesitated. This wasn't the reaction he had expected. Last time, I had pleaded for him to listen. I had begged for him to stay. But this time, I wasn't the broken girl desperate for his love. Ethan, I said his name slowly, watching the confusion flicker in his expression. You seem to know her very well. Why don't you explain why your so-called ex-fiancé is here at our wedding? More whispers filled the air. I saw the shift in the guest faces. Doubt. Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. I turned towards Lily, stepping closer. Tell them, Lily. If I took your fiancé, if I caused you to lose your child, if I'm as terrible as you claim, then prove it. Her body stiffened, eyes darting around as if searching for a way out. She had never expected me to challenge her publicly. A sudden realization settled over me. She had always relied on others to defend her. She never fought her own battles. Ethan always stood between her and the consequences of her actions. But not this time. Call the police, I repeated, glancing towards the security station at the entrance. Lily's breath hitched. She stumbled back, real panic creeping into her features. She had lost control. The script she had prepared was unraveling before her eyes. She searched for Ethan, her last chance at escape. But something shifted. He didn't move. The hesitation in his eyes was unmistakable. For the first time, uncertainty clouded his judgment. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. His friends, his family, the business partners in the crowd, every single person watching was now waiting for his response. If he defended Lily now, it wouldn't be out of love. It would be self-destruction. Ethan. Lily called his name, voice trembling. Please, say something. But he said nothing. The silence stretched between us, the moment lingering. And then, the security guards moved, stepping forward to take Lily away. She flinched, panic taking over. Wait, no. Ethan, don't let them take me. Please. She tried to run, but the firm grip on her arms held her in place. Ethan stood frozen, his world falling apart before him. His past, his choices, his lies, everything was exposed. I lifted my chin, watching as Lily was dragged from the hall, her cries fading into the distance. I turned back to Ethan, my voice calm but sharp. For once, deal with your own mess. And with that, I walked away, leaving behind the man who had never truly been mine. The news spread faster than I expected. Within hours, the internet was flooded with discussions about the wedding disaster. Some people sympathized, others speculated. A few defended Ethan, but most questioned the sudden turn of events. Comments poured in, debates flared up, and hashtags trended overnight. I sat in my dimly lit apartment, watching the chaos unfold. My phone buzzed endlessly, calls, messages, notifications. Ethan had tried reaching out multiple times, but I ignored every attempt. The past had already shown me the consequences of trusting him. I refused to let history repeat itself. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. My best friend stood outside, her expression a mix of satisfaction and concern. She stepped in, setting her bag on the table. You did it, she said, arms crossed. The whole world knows she lied. I leaned against the counter, exhaling slowly. It's not over yet. She nodded, understanding what I meant. Lily had played the victim her entire life, and Ethan had always shielded her. This time, however, she had no escape. The footage of her breakdown, the security removing her, the guests whispering, everything had been recorded. It was only a matter of time before the truth completely unraveled. My friend pulled out her phone, scrolling through articles. Ethan's family is furious. Apparently, his parents had no idea about Lily's involvement. They are demanding an explanation. That was expected. Ethan's entire life had been built on status and reputation. He wasn't just any businessman, he was the golden boy, the perfect heir. Now, everything he had worked for was falling apart. His mother had adored me before the scandal, but after what happened, she had turned against me just as quickly as he did. I wondered what she thought now, knowing that her son had lied. I checked my messages again. This time, an unknown number flashed on the screen. Without hesitation, I blocked it. If Ethan wanted to talk, he would have to face me in person. There was nothing left to discuss, but I wouldn't hide from him either. The following morning, I arrived at my lawyer's office. A lawsuit was already in motion. Slander, defamation, damages. Lily had made sure I lost everything once. I wouldn't let her walk away so easily this time. My lawyer, an older woman with sharp instincts, tapped her pen against the desk. With the evidence we've gathered, the case is strong. But Lily is unpredictable. If she's desperate, she may attempt another stunt. That was likely. Lily never accepted defeat. She thrived on manipulation, bending reality until it fit her narrative. I had no doubt she would try something reckless. Before leaving the office, I received an unexpected call from a journalist. They wanted an exclusive interview. I had stayed silent throughout the entire ordeal, allowing public speculation to grow. Now, the media wanted my side of the story. I declined. Words had never been my greatest weapon, actions spoke louder. The truth was already unraveling, and I had no intention of explaining myself. Let them wonder. Let Ethan scramble for damage control. Let Lily dig her own grave. As I walked out of the building, a familiar voice stopped me. Ethan stood a few feet away, dressed impeccably, as if nothing had happened. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes held something I hadn't seen before, uncertainty. "We need to talk," he said, stepping closer. I remained still, watching him carefully. The last time I had stood before him like this, I had begged for understanding. I had asked for the truth. This time, I was different. "I have nothing to say to you," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Ethan exhaled, his frustration evident. "You went too far." I raised an eyebrow, amused. "I went too far. Your mistress crashed our wedding, accused me of ruining her life, and you want to lecture me about limits." His jaw clenched. Lily wasn't supposed to do that. That made me laugh, a short, humorless sound. "Oh, so you knew? You were just hoping she'd do it quietly." Ethan remained silent, confirming what I had suspected. He had known all along. The only thing that had changed was the outcome. "Summer," he said, voice softer now. "I never meant for things to go this way." I tilted my head slightly, studying him. "But they did." A long pause stretched between us. He looked as if he wanted to say something more, but I didn't care. I had wasted enough time trying to understand him. He had made his choices, and now, he had to live with them. "I'm done here," I said, stepping past him. He grabbed my wrist, his grip firm. "Wait." I turned back, meeting his gaze. For a brief moment, I saw something close to regret. But regret wasn't love. Regret wasn't loyalty. Regret wouldn't undo what had been done. I pulled my arm free. "You're not worth it, Ethan." Walking away felt different this time. There was no ache, no lingering sadness. Just freedom. That night, another wave of news hit the internet. A leaked recording surfaced, Ethan's voice, admitting he had planned to use me from the beginning. It was clear, undeniable. His carefully constructed image crumbled in an instant. Lily, realizing the tide had fully turned, attempted to shift blame. She released a public statement, claiming she had been manipulated, that Ethan had forced her into everything. It was an obvious lie. The comments tore her apart. Everything was falling apart exactly how I had planned. I watched the chaos unfold from my apartment window, sipping tea as my phone continued to buzz. Messages poured in, apologies, inquiries, desperate attempt at reconciliation. But I had already decided. I wasn't looking back. The morning air felt crisp as I stepped outside, the world around me moving as if nothing had changed. But for me, everything was different. The weight that had once crushed me was gone. There were no whispers behind my back, no eyes filled with judgment. For the first time in a long while, I could breathe without the suffocating grip of betrayal. The news had already spread everywhere. Ethan's reputation had taken a serious hit, and Lily was drowning in the chaos she had created. Their carefully crafted illusions had shattered overnight. People who once defended them were now turning against them, questioning every lie they had told. The media was ruthless, dissecting every detail, exposing the truth piece by piece. I had no time to dwell on their downfall. My focus was on the future. I had spent too long caught in the past, wasting energy on people who never deserved a moment of my attention. Now, I was determined to rebuild what I had lost. Stepping into my office, I greeted my assistant, who handed me a stack of documents. The new business I had started was finally taking shape. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. Every decision, every investment, every move, I controlled it all. No one could take that from me. Sitting at my desk, I scanned through contracts, ensuring everything was in place. This was what I had always wanted, to build something of my own, free from manipulation. I had sacrificed so much for Ethan, believing his promises, trusting his words. But that chapter was over. My success would be my greatest revenge. A message flashed across my phone. It was from an unknown number. Ignoring it, I continued working. Another notification followed, then another. I sighed, finally glancing at the screen. Ethan, we need to talk. Ethan, please, just once. Ethan, I regret everything. I stared at the words, feeling nothing. The man who had once held my heart now meant nothing to me. Deleting the messages, I returned to my work. Later that afternoon, I met with my lawyer. The case against Lily was progressing well. With overwhelming evidence against her, there was little she could do to escape the consequences. She had tried reaching out through mutual connections, pleading for leniency. I refused to entertain any negotiations. She had never shown me mercy, I owed her nothing. Stepping out of the law firm, I found myself face to face with Ethan. He looked different, tired, defeated, shadows under his eyes betraying his sleepless nights. Gone was the confident man who once believed he was untouchable. Summer, he started, his voice quieter than I had ever heard it. I met his gaze, unbothered. What do you want? His shoulders tensed, as if bracing for rejection. I made a mistake. I almost laughed. He had made many, but now that he was suffering, he suddenly realized it. Typical. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, he continued. But I need you to understand, I never meant to hurt you. Crossing my arms, I tilted my head slightly. You threw me away like I was nothing. You believed lies without question. You watched me suffer and did nothing. Now, when everything is falling apart, you expect me to listen. His expression darkened. I was blinded. Lily, I cut him off. Lily didn't force you to betray me. That was your choice. Silence stretched between us. He had no defense, no excuse that could undo the past. I lost everything, he admitted. My family, my business, my reputation. I nodded, unimpressed. Sounds like karma. His hands clenched at his sides. Do you really feel nothing? I took a deep breath, considering his words. Did I feel nothing? No. I felt relief. I felt peace. But love, regret, sympathy, none of it remained. I feel grateful, I finally said. Because losing you gave me back myself. His eyes flickered with something close to pain, but I didn't care. He was simply facing the consequences of his actions. Turning away, I left him standing there, swallowed by his own regrets. That evening, my best friend called, excitement in her voice. Guess what? Lily's latest stunt just backfired. I raised an eyebrow. What did she do now? She tried framing someone else, claimed she was strict, manipulated, that she was never at fault. But someone leaked footage of her plotting everything. She laughed. The internet is tearing her apart. Shaking my head, I sipped my tea, watching the city lights from my balcony. Some people never learned. No matter how many times Lily tried to shift the blame, the truth would always catch up to her. Let her destroy herself, I replied. She's good at that. Agreed. By the way, your name's trending. I frowned. For what? For all the right reasons, she said. People are finally realizing the truth. They are supporting you. I hadn't expected that. I had spent so long being the villain in their eyes that I had forgotten what it felt like to be believed. Looks like you won, my friend added. I smiled softly, feeling the truth of her words. I had won. Not because I ruined them, but because I had freed myself. Placing my phone down, I closed my eyes, allowing myself a moment of peace. For the first time in years, I was truly happy. The sun shone brightly as I stepped outside, the warmth touching my skin in a way that felt almost like a promise. Life had moved forward, and for the first time, I was no longer shackled to the past. The weight I had carried for so long had finally lifted, and each step I took now was entirely my own. The city bustled around me, strangers passing by with their own stories, their own struggles. I blended in, just another person living their life, no longer haunted by whispers or judgment. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined me. A message flashed across my phone. An invitation. A business event, one that would put me in the same room as people I once feared, including those who had doubted me. I considered declining, but something inside pushed me forward. This wasn't about them. It was about proving, to myself more than anyone else, that I had truly moved on. Arriving at the venue, I walked through the grand doors, feeling no hesitation. The air inside carried an unspoken tension, conversations filled with careful words and hidden meanings. These were the same people who had once judged me, whispered behind my back, believed lies without question. Now, their eyes held something different, curiosity, perhaps even respect. Ethan was there. His presence no longer held any power over me. He looked up as I passed, eyes searching for something he would never find. I gave him nothing. No reaction, no acknowledgement. Just silence. I was introduced to investors, designers, and entrepreneurs, people who saw me for what I had built, not for the rumors that once surrounded my name. Each handshake, each conversation, solidified what I already knew. I had rebuilt everything from the ground up, and I had done it without the help of anyone who had betrayed me. A familiar voice cut through the noise. Lily. I turned, meeting her gaze across the room. She looked different, worn down, exhausted. The confidence she had once carried so effortlessly was gone, replaced by desperation. She approached hesitantly, her once bright eyes now filled with uncertainty. I need to talk, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I regarded her calmly. About what? She shifted uncomfortably. Everything. There was a time when I would have wanted answers, when I would have begged to understand why she had done what she did. But now, I didn't need her explanations. I already knew. I'm sorry, she said, the words hesitant, as if they were foreign to her. I studied her for a long moment. Once, I had dreamed of hearing those words. Now, they meant nothing. I don't need your apology, I replied. She blinked, as if expecting a different response. Then what do you want? I thought for a moment before answering. Nothing. That single word seemed to shake her. She had spent so long trying to control everything, so long making sure she was the center of attention. Now, she was nothing to me. She opened her mouth as if to say more, but I had already turned away. Leaving the event, I stepped onto the street, inhaling the crisp evening air. My phone buzzed again, this time, from my lawyer. The case against Lily had reached its conclusion. A settlement in my favor. A legal acknowledgement of everything she had done. It was over. Standing beneath the city lights, I realized I had finally won. Not because of the court decision, not because of Lily's downfall, not even because Ethan had lost everything. I had won because I had freed myself. My phone rang again, but this time, it was a number I recognized. A potential business partner. A new opportunity. My future. Smiling, I answered, stepping forward into the next chapter of my life, leaving the past exactly where it belonged, behind me.